In this problem, we are given that cotangent of theta equals -4 and cosine theta is greater than 0, and we want to find the exact values of the remaining trig functions. Now, cotangent is rather simple to find because it is the reciprocal of tangent, or rather tangent's easy to find since it's the reciprocal of cotangent. We just take the reciprocal of -4 and we get -1/4. But the other four take a little bit more work to determine. So first, let's look at the cotangent theta equals -4. That tells us two pieces of information, really. First, it tells us, or it helps us to narrow down which quadrant the angle theta is in, and it also tells us some values going on here. So cotangent is -4, and I'm focusing on the negative, right? So cotangent of theta and tangent of theta are both negative in the quadrants where x and y are, where either x or y is positive or negative. One is positive, one is negative. So that's in quadrant 2 and in quadrant 4. Those are the two quadrants where tangent and cotangent are negative. Cosine, though, cosine of the angle theta is greater than 0. It's positive. Well, cosine of theta is positive in quadrants 1 and 4. Those are the two quadrants where x is positive. So that tells us that the angle is either over here in quadrant 1 or in quadrant 4. And since both of those things must be true, that means the angle must be somewhere in quadrant 4. I'm going to draw it in the middle just for the moment until I determine a more accurate way to draw it. So we know that cotangent of theta equals -4, and it might help to think of that as -4 over 1. So if you use the x, y, r method for your trig, you know that cotangent of an angle is equal to x over y. So that tells us the ratio of the x coordinate to the y coordinate of this point right here. So that tells us x is equal to -4 and y is +1. Of course, that doesn't make sense in the fourth quadrant because x is positive and y is negative. So let's move the negative sign down there. Let's go ahead and draw in our triangle. Even though it's not to scale, I'm going to go ahead and leave it. We're given x is equal to 4 by equating these two numerators, and y is -1. And then we can use that to find sine, cosine, cosecant, and secant. And for all of those, we need also the radius of this triangle. So we are going to use the Pythagorean theorem here. So x squared plus y squared equals the radius squared. So we have that 4 squared plus -1 squared is equal to the radius squared. Or we could use +1, it doesn't matter. So 16 plus 1 is equal to r squared. So r is the square root of 17, and r is always positive. And now we can find sine of theta. So sine of theta is equal to y over r. So the y is -1 and the r is root 17. So we get -1 over root 17. And let's go ahead and look at its reciprocal down here would then be root 17 over 1 for cosecant theta. And lastly, cosine theta is x over r would be 4 over root 17. And its reciprocal would be root 17 over 4.